Good evening, everyone. It is with pride and honor that I serve as general manager of this historical site. On behalf of the Lincoln Theater Association board members and our chairman, Larry James, I welcome you. Tonight's topic is the power of words. This was selected to have a deep dive into how words inspire, how words encourage, and express our most inner thoughts and surroundings, world issues, personal endeavors, how words hurt, and how words heal. Most importantly, how they express love. My co-chair for the program and Lincoln Theater board member and host of Jazz Sunday on WCBE will share the MC duties with me tonight and throughout the evening, Mr. Jack Marchbanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you all for coming out. In this 21st century world of Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, and texting, words are carelessly, recklessly thrown about. But if they're used thoughtfully, words can inspire and words can provide insight. Just 2 examples. With 7 words, this poet clearly and profoundly stated her station in the world and how she understood it. I know why the caged bird sings. 7 words. And with just 3 words, a new generation has signaled its defiant outrage with what it sees as injustice. Black lives matter. That demonstrates the power of words, but what I'm going to share with you now is a historic montage of words and their power in politics and in poetry.
This is a day of national consecration, and I am certain that on this day my fellow Americans expect that on my induction into the presidency, I will address them with a candor and a decision which the present situation of our people impels. This is preeminently the time to speak the truth, the whole truth, frankly and boldly. Nor need we shrink from honestly speaking conditions in our country today. This great nation will endure as it has endured, will revive and will prosper. So first of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed effort to convert retreat.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. My fellow citizens of the world, ask not what America will do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man.
We are African, and we happen to be in America. We're not American. We are people who formerly were Africans who were kidnapped and brought to America. Our forefathers weren't the Pilgrims. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. The rock was landed on us. We were brought here against our will. We were not brought here to be made citizens. We were not brought here to enjoy the constitutional gifts that they speak so beautifully about today.
Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now. because I've been to the mountaintop. And I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
Everyone in the world has gone to bed one night or another with fear or pain or loss or disappointment. And yet each of us has awakened, arisen, somehow made our ablution, seen other human beings, and said, "Morning, how are you? Fine, thanks, and you?" It's amazing. Wherever that abides in the human being, there is the nobleness of the human spirit. Despite it all, black and white, Asian, Spanish, Native American, pretty, plain, thin, fat, vowed or celibate, we rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom just 'cause I walk as if I have oil wells pumping in my living room? Just like suns and like moons, with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my sassiness upset you? Don't take it so hard just 'cause I laugh. As if I have gold mines digging in my own backyard. You can shoot me with your words. You can cut me with your lies. You can kill me with your hatefulness. But just like life, I'll rise. Does my sexiness offend you? Oh, does it come as a surprise that I dance? As if I have diamonds at the meeting of my thighs. Out of the huts of history's shame I rise. Up from a past rooted in pain I rise. A black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak miraculously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope and the dream of the slave. And so, naturally, there I go rising.
The great Maya Angelou.
So we're going to have our guest panelists, who are also poets, to share with us pieces that they have created and talk a little bit about where this piece came from. We'll have Mr. Speak Williams.
So glad to be here. This piece is really about the lineage of the tradition of writing, specifically in the Black tradition of poets and writers. When I took a course in college where we studied African American literature, it kind of dawned on me that I have a place in that literature, and that the things that I were doing today stems far, far back in time to the beginning. And so I decided that I wanted to chronicle that in my own way and kind of bring it up to speed. So it's called The Burden of My Wrist. This is more than just spitting. This is the history of a people passed down through oral tradition. From the hieroglyphics written inside the ancient tombs of the Egyptians to these words inscripted across this notebook for composition. This is wisdom passed down from ages to ages, generation to generation, engraved within pages. The ink in my pen runs deep like the blood of my ancestors' veins when they entered those horrible, horrible slave ships. Matter of fact, discard the ink. I write with the blood of those before me in order to describe what they think, see what they saw, feel what they felt. Now can you hear the screams of help as a slave is brutally beaten with the cowhide belt? You hear that? That's the sound of a struggle. White man hate a brother, lynch a brother for his troubles. The best way to keep me ignorant is to keep me illiterate. So that means that all my reading and writing and poetry reciting is more like leading a fight then. So please, one weekend and night, just turn off the TV at night. Stop believing the hype, because we're in a modern day crisis and everything ain't what it seems in this life. See, in the millennium, what I speak on the mic will be similar to the 20s, what you might have read in the crisis. So call MTV, tell them the real world was never really like this. A couple white guys and a black dude that's light-skinned. While the fallen celebs was living the surreal life, tell them why I'm living, yo, it is the real life. So like in Zinga wrote, I know it's time to write. Like Phyllis, even though they might not feel us, might kill us for being some might killers. For this literary movement that me and my contemporaries will be doing. Don't be disillusioned. You are the offspring of novelists, playwrights, people that fought the same fight behind the pen with the typewriter. So I get nocturnal in the journal and fight the modern day fight, sparking a revolution on a Google Doc. Secret messages deciphered and laserjet writers. I continue where the writers before me ink ran out and pick up the burden and carry it on my wrist. Thank you.
I aspire just to speak like that, so clear all the time. I practice, but I get tongue-tied. Speak Williams, let's give him another hand. Now, we'll bring to the mic Miss Sierra Leone.
Good evening. Good evening. It is just so wonderful to be here. Thank you so much, Suzan, for inviting me. To have an opportunity to grace the stage tonight in Columbus is truly a blessing. For me, words have truly been a catalyst. I've wrote through a lot of fears, and I think on the other side of fear, there's just been so many blessings. For me as a woman, the piece I'm sharing tonight is Daughters Rising from the Dust. And I think when I look back at some of the women I know, we carry a lot of burdens. And in this process of carrying burdens, when you don't have one, folk will get to looking around for a burden. You know, some drama or something to get into somebody's business. Something has to be going on here for me to worry about. And so in this process of wanting to detach from that and take the time that I spend worrying about other people's challenges or being in their business, taking that little bit of time to spend more time with myself, with my writing, and the things that was going to add value to my life has truly been priceless. This piece, Daughters Rising from the Dust, is a poem that I wrote for a group of women. All of the slain civil rights leaders, their daughters came to Wright State University a few weeks ago, and I was asked to write a poem for them. And because it's Women's Month, I thought I would share it today. It is not easy to speak to greatness. Sisters living in the spirit, graciously grateful. Patient by nature, brave-hearted matriarchs, exemplifying an intrinsic constitution. define universal subdivision. Worship, our unconditional commitment, passed down through matrilineal descendants. We are sacred beings, bearing precious gifts of kindness, rooted deep in our maternal family tree. A blessing's blessing, bestowed with the compassion to convert the fertile soil of future deeds into inspiration for the human race. Women have stared fortitude in the face. Most days the Creator carries our weight, a deliberate creation, never allowing the pains of life to compromise dedication. Authentic trailblazers, with hearts that are superior to time and space. The voice's voice of liberation, an evolving ethnographic shade of centuries past, protector of all living origin, catalyst and root of the movement, the scar and the motivation of an unnamed nation, the universe's universal soulmate. Thank you.
I always have to tell this story about Brother IsSaid and I's relationship. He have watched me grow up in this community and really never had a conversation with him until we met in the Gambia, West Africa. I was there on the trip that my mother thought I would find myself there, and we were on the ferry on our way back to Senegal, and he said, "Is anyone in for y'all from Ohio?" They said, "Well, our guide is from Ohio," and I turned around, I said, "IsSaid? All the way in Africa?" And that has been our beginning of our conversations and our relationship, and each year we meet each other back there in Senegal. So Brother IsSaid.
Thank you. I'm going to do a little poem. It's called Views of a Homeless Person, 2001. I smell of, you smell of. We all smell of the stink from a lady that stands in stinking water with her arm raised, stinking up this world with stink, and with a white power grin on her stinking face. America, for which she stands, for its beauty, which is different. America, our America, the witch of all witches for which she stands. Untogether and unafraid. Untogether and unafraid. Now, just because I'm homeless don't mean I'm blind or crazy. I see the world every day, and I must confess the world is in a mess. With a president named Bush, a vice named Dick, a secretary named Colin, and a condom made out of rice. And everybody's getting screwed. Because I ain't got no home, no car, no phone so far. No bread, I said, no word, no hurry. But it's my world, and y'all just passing through. Hey, my friend, will you let me have 25 cents for a cup of coffee? Okay, I understand. God bless you. Hey, my friend, will you let me have 50 cents for a cup of coffee? Okay, I understand. God bless you. Hey, my friend, let me have $1 for a cup of coffee. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. God bless you. You see, I'm a Vietnam vet with Agent Orange, and I die a little bit every day. But let me tell you something that's very important. There is a fungus among us, and it sure do stink. There is a fungus among us, and it sure do stink. There is a fungus among us, and it sure do stink.
Okay, we got to recognize, don't we? Wanted to make sure that we had the generational presentation and all of our panelists and poets here, and so I bring to you Cynthia Amoah.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Miss Suzan. I really appreciate it. So the piece that I am going to do tonight is a really, really personal piece. For me, I consider my poems prayers. And so this piece was written as a prayer. My voice is just as urgent in this world as yours, just as capable of its utterance, as worthy of fluctuations, of praise, of recitation. My voice is just as loud and just as necessary as. Come on, Cynthia, say it, just the way you wrote it, unafraid. Voices in my head. It is with voice that you hear me. It is with voice that I am here because the truth just sounds different. My voice, it is woman and frustration and the curl of my lips. My voice is 1,000 songs echoing from under my ancestors' feet. They stomp, they raise, it raises. Influence the back row, the front row will love you. Think about the front row, the back row will forget you. You're just as good as everyone else. You woman of backbone made of foil hair, of rope, of body and fragments, of the mistakenings of your fragments for being the only opening to you. You crack sometimes and spill yourself and bleed, but only light escapes. You love the hate out of people. You be capable. You be qualified. You are worthy. You have power. You women of many talents. You withstand. You recite over and over until you believe the things you say, like the fact that you are beautiful. You convince yourself. You be convincing, girl. There are many other openings to you. Don't they see you, woman of hiding, of allowance, of the allowing of people to crawl themselves inside of you and leave behind all of their still energies, and still you are hidden treasure, the keeper of glitter, you woman of 2 Timothy, you woman of hiding. You remember heartbreak, that winter you wore all black like you were in mourning. You didn't know you had to ask for someone to rescue you. You thought they could see your arms flailing, but you see God is masterful at hiding things. You thought you'd be rotten, but God, but he be hiding all of his treasures inside of you. What will you be, Cynthia? Who will you be? Pick a side. Stop rocking back and forth. Pick a side. Pick a side. Love yourself enough to fill the hole he made when he tried to break you, when he tried to make a Delilah out of you. And the emptiness of you came pouring out hollow, and you thought you'd be dissolving, but you'll be absorbing. You expand and stretch and change, especially when everything else stays the same. Free yourself. Find yourself, Cynthia. Find your voice. Speak. Articulate like there are 1,000 deaths awaiting you. And death doesn't come like a thief in the night. It comes in the things we say and the things we write. It's in the things we hear and the things we recite. It's a lulling whisper, can't you hear it? Just above the wailing and the gnashing of teeth, can't you hear it? It's uncanny and exposed and delightful all at the same time. It sounds like a fistful of violins giving birth to music, can't you hear it? Search the history books and overturn the grain on the pages, because nothing that was ever truly beautiful ask for attention. You, woman of 2 Timothy, find your voice, find your voice.
So let's give another hand to all of our poets. Yes. Thank you. So now we're going to open the floor for the dialogue and the conversation to begin and to happen. We have our 2 mics here where you can come to the front here and ask your question, make your comment, share. We'll go for a few minutes in that. Then we'll allow the audience, if there's people in the audience that want to share a sort of freestyle, we will allow that, but we have to hold you to 60 seconds. And I'm going to stand up at 58, just so you know, okay? And if time allows us, we'll have an encore from our panelists and poets here. Okay, so we can begin that dialogue. You've heard all of their work. You saw the video montage here, so we are opening the floor for dialogue at this time. Don't be shy. Blown away? Thank you.
I just wondered about your process. How long does it, I'm a little hot, so let me see this. How long does it, do some poems come really fast and other poems take a long time? I thought maybe a couple of you would talk about that.
My process, it evolves a little bit. Usually when I start out to write a piece, I just go from line to line and I kind of just let it flow. Some pieces, I just let them totally spill out. And then I'll go back and edit, right? So just kind of clean them up. Some of them, I just take my time line by line, and about time I'm finished with it, it may, be complete. So I think for me, it just depends on how inspiration hits me. If you're inspired, if you see something that moves. I know I wrote a piece like about Tamir Rice. It was something that was very moving for me. It didn't take long at all to really put that down because of the strong emotions that I felt about the topic. So that's my process.
I think for me, the process is always evolving. I write every single day. I have little kids, and so having small children, you have to just sometimes I think find the back of an envelope or a notebook or anything you can get your hands on to get that energy out. But for pieces like the piece I wrote today, it is a very detailed process when you're honoring someone else. It's a long time. I allow other people to read it. I allow my community to be involved in some of my art and some of that process for me. I think it's always open. Sometimes it's short and easy, but it's so funny because I remember being at a writer's retreat with Sonia Sanchez, and I had written this poem, and we were reviewing our work, and she looked at me and she said, you can edit that. You can take some of that out. And that was about 15 years ago. And so it's been, for me at that moment, it dawned on me, you can go back and fix a poem. You can go back and change it. If it has legs, it can grow. What you're writing, what I was writing about 15 years ago, 10 years ago, is not the same thing I'm writing about today, but some of those pieces from the past, they do have legs, and you can add to them in that regard.
I have a different view of some things that I write. Excuse me. Many times when I write, I see a picture in my mind, and I try to draw a picture with words, with what I see. Some years ago, a friend of mine named Frida, we would go to a prison. In the first hour, she would have them to draw a picture. In the second hour, I would have them to write a poem about the picture. Then the next time we would come, we would write a poem, and then they would draw a picture from their poem. So really, it's like it's a lot like physics. It's like a formula to do some things in certain ways, and sometimes you go outside the context of it because sometimes you want to make a serious point, and sometimes you do it, sometimes you don't. But that's the process I use.
And for me, I always say that it's a little weird, and I know I'm not supposed to call myself weird, but I usually say the words before I write them down. And it's almost as if like saying them convinces me that they should be in a poem, that they should go on paper. And so sometimes I live with my sister, and she calls me crazy because I'm always in my room just like yelling and just going off and just reciting poems. And most of the time, I usually finish them in one sitting. So it's not something that I usually revisit. If I just am in the spirit, I just say it and then put it on paper.
Excellent. Thank you so much, all of you. More questions. Be brave. I know some of you have some.
It seems like, most of, is there teaching and there's a positiveness that comes out of what people are saying, especially up on the stage and they're called poets, and then there's other people that are called wordsmiths, and maybe they're not quite so positive. They dwell on the negative or to bring people down instead of lift people up. So I just want to know your take on that. Is being a poet, does that mean to uplift? Does that mean to teach or to educate, or what's your definition of that as opposed to a rapper or a lyricist or someone we're all talking about words, but everyone had a poem that was uplifting. Everyone had something to say that people could take and use in their lives. Is that something that's important to the work?
Well, I would say it is the job of the poet to speak to the issues of their times. And so some of that work is going to be inspirational. And then some of that work is going to definitely be in subject areas that everyone may not be comfortable with. There's plenty of work that we put forth. I would say for me, I did a series called Pain Commands Attention, The Dawn of Freedom. In 2003, I battled with a severe bout of depression. And one of my mentors, when I called her, she said, just write yourself out of it. And I was so naive. I was like, okay, I can do that. I can write myself out of this. And so that body of work, which is something that I've just been able to start to perform this year. It took so long to heal, and it happened in 2003. And at work, I needed to be in a space where I could deliver that work, which some of it is very heavy, but from a place that can help people heal. So every single, I think for me, being a poet, it is always our job to speak to the issues of the times, no matter how brutal they are or how beautiful they are.
That's a great question. Wait, where did he go? Okay, I'm over here like, yeah, that's a great question. Somebody like myself, I actually grew up in the hip hop tradition. So before I started writing anything, I was an MC, or what some might call a rapper. And then but the title things become more like semantics, because like as I've evolved as a person that speaks and a person that writes, I started out rapping. Then I went to, Wright State. I came in touch with, the more poetic side of the tradition and working with Sierra Leone, major catalyst in my life. And then when I got out of school, I started writing songs on the guitar. I just write music. Then I started public speaking, and then some people was like, okay, he's a poet. Wait, he's an MC. Wait, he's a lyricist. Well, he's just good with words, actually. He a wordsmith, right? So now I just let people just call me, whatever they feel like calling me. However you conceptualize me, it's fine. Some people might hear the piece that I did, and if I was hanging around the people who are more inclined to rap, they would have just said, that's just an a cappella rap. That's just rapping with no beat. And all poetries have rhythm in it. They all come from the same, space. But I have to agree with, Sierra. Whatever. I'll tell you this real quick. My old teacher, my social studies teacher, he told me if I'd been born in a different time, I would be something different. But since I was born in the 80s, I'm a rapper. But if I'd have been, born in Africa, I would have been a griot. If I'd have been coming up in the 60s or 70s, I would have been a poet. So it's just the tradition of storytelling. Like I said, the history of oral tradition, and that just manifests itself differently depending on what era you were born in and what is the medium of that time. So that's kind of how I look at it.
They got it. They hit the nail on the head.
Well, I went to workshops for 3 years before I ever read a poem. I was in workshops with Sonia Sanchez, Nicodemus Vani, Gwendolyn Brooks, Maya Angelou, Quincy Troop, because I don't get involved in things unless I know that's what I want to do. I like to do things long range. I'm not a quitter. I don't stop because there's obstacles in front of me. But many times when I write, I can go to Franklin Park, take an incense and light it, take me a bottle of pop or a bottle of water, and sit up there and meditate and close my eyes And when I open my eyes, I write about everything I heard. So there's many ways to do it because all poets have to find their own space where it flows. It's just like going to the toilet. It's natural. Seriously, it's natural. It just flows. And that's the way it does without having a lot of anxiety and trying to straighten things out, because just about anything you write poetically, it can be edited. Nothing is written in stone but certain things, but not poetry.
I'm appreciative of you panels being here. I have a request, or it could be a challenge. I'm a poet, or better yet, I read prose and vignettes. I don't consider myself a poet. So the challenge is, could there be a point of reference written, handed out, or submitted to Webster as to explaining the difference between a lyricist, a poet, a rapper? There's other words I'm sure you can share with me. But there again, as far as my era is concerned, poetry. Now, there's been a lot of different variations of that, as you said. I like to see it in writing. And I'm challenging you guys to start something or get together and help us, as he was needing help. Okay?
Thank you for that homework assignment, Mr. Davenport. And that, really, what he's just asked is something that could be a dissertation. It really is a deep, deep subject, and it would take a lot of very talented and intelligent people to answer it fully. And then after that, it would be contested because it's a matter of debate. But we'll take that under advisement, Mr. Davenport.
Do we have anyone else want to come up, make a comment? Okay. We have two, one at one mic and one at the other.
I came in kind of late, so excuse me if this has been addressed already, but as an artist, do you feel like any word should be off limits? Like, certain people feel like you shouldn't use the N word. And also, I have a friend who's a singer, and he feels like you shouldn't use profanity in your lyrics. He feels like, if you're talented, you don't have to use profanity. But I personally feel like, if a song or a poem is flowing, you might, a curse word might just kind of flow out. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a really good question. I actually have a poem using the N-word. The entire poem is the N-word. It's breaking it down. I did the vagina monologues in my undergraduate career, and there was a monologue that was using the C word. And we all know the C word is a little forbidden. And so I decided to experiment using the N word, and the poem was born. So if we have time at the end, I will perform that poem. But to answer your question, I do not think so. I think an artist should be allowed to use any word that they want to use if they are using it in the right context and the right medium. And as long as they're using it with purpose.
I'm old school, as you can see. And we used to pick cotton in Georgia. And the boss man used to ride through there and call us all kind of N-words. But my grandmother used to tell me all the time, she said the N-word means nothing. And every time you call somebody that, you call them nothing. So if they must be nothing, then you must be nothing. But everybody wants to be somebody. So I never use the word because it's a derogatory word. I'll go to Africa every year for the last 32 years. There's over 900 million people live in Africa. I have never heard the word one time. But 40 million people in America that uses it, something is wrong with us, period.
So, what's up, Chris? How you doing? I acted in a play that Chris wrote, Springtime of Our Lives, so great writer. Somebody said, woo! See, so My personal take on it is, language is a tool. Words are tools. Words, I personally subscribe to the belief that definitions are in people and not inherently in language. Now, as a communicator, that doesn't mean that I just say whatever I want to say. I'm mindful of my audience, but a lot of that just comes from my personal upbringing, and that's not something that I put on anybody else. Me personally, I might have some pieces and I might want to go here. If I see small children, I'll just go far left. But that's just my space, right? It's just something that doesn't feel right within my own conviction, because certain concepts, topics, and languages and things just may be above their words, so their mind, to have that conversation. If it's a room full of adults or some people that can kind of follow the piece, then I'll take it there. Sometimes it just depends on, I think, as a person that uses words, it's all about action reaction, right? So in some pieces I'm frustrated, and I may just use a word just so you can share in my frustration, right? So because, let's say a topic like police brutality, because that makes me very uncomfortable, obviously, right? Then I may use words to make you uncomfortable, because to me it's life or death, and I'm feeling very uncomfortable as a black man in America. I'm uncomfortable. And so for you to share in that, I may invoke serious images. I may use conversations that I've heard other people say, because I feel like part of the job of the poet or the person with the voice is to use other people's words as well. So sometimes if I'm using words, they may not even be mine. They may be somebody on Mount Vernon, but see, you'll never meet that person, right? You'll never have that conversation, and you'll never get that perspective. So I'll just take it upon myself to embody that person, and then I'll present them to people who may be uncomfortable, right? So that's kind of how I think about it. I don't believe in using words just recklessly. I don't believe in just shock value, just to just say some stuff just to make people be like, oh, that was crazy. But like a doctor, using precise techniques to make your audience feel or think something, I think is powerful. We just attended a show with a group from Baltimore called The Real N-Word Show. I'll say N-word, I know we streaming live. Can't come back and edit that real quick. So, like I say, I'm mindful this is live, so of course I'm gonna be more conscious of that. But the show was amazing. It was thought-provoking. It had a lot of uses of a lot of words and a lot of references. But I think everybody kind of walked away from that show feeling uplifted, impacted, more critical about their assessment of society and some of the content that they dealt with. So that's my position.
Y'all know I'm scared, right? It's tight up in here. Y'all didn't gave the claps for what y'all believe in, right? So, as a poet, I would say I do enjoy The Last Poets, Gil Scott-Heron. Really, really great work. I'm just a believer of appreciating the art. If there's value there for young people. My husband and I run an educational consulting business. And the one thing that we've come to realize in that business is that when you're working with young people, you just have to meet them where they are. And that's working with all people, I think. Sometimes young people will come into a project and their pants are sagging really, really low. And we don't say anything to them. Because if I can shift your mind and your mentality, you're going to want to pull your pants up. I don't have to tell you to. You're going to want to do something differently. So if you're using certain types of words that may not be approved by others or appreciated by others, we all have been young. We all have been beginners. And we all have had a perspective that maybe others cannot appreciate. So in that space for me, whatever the catalyst needs to be to ensure that people are standing in their spotlight of greatness, I'm for it.
So my question is about writing serious poems versus humorous poems. I think there's a vulnerability in writing and in performing, period. So really two questions. One is the difference between writing it and it's on the paper and you're not sharing it versus writing it and you know you're going to share it with other people. Like what that process is like to write. And then the process of writing. And I mean, and maybe, I don't know how many of you, I know some of the writings, but for those of you who write and you're like, this poem is meant to be light, and trying to anticipate people understanding the lightness of a poem versus this one is heavy, it's meant to be heavy. Thanks.
Yeah, so as far as like my writing and writing like humor and stuff like that, it's just not really what I write. I think I'm a funny person sometimes. You know, in conversation they tell me I'm good. But I've my expression has kind of just been on the more serious tip. You know, on the more, the tip like, you know, I'm trying to change something, right? I want my writing to evolve to happier spaces, and I think as my kids get older and they make me happy, you know, I think I'll be able to capture more of that narrative, right? So when I'm kind of looking at a piece, public versus, you know, private, it's really interesting because I went through a time where I had to actually create that barrier in my mind to say it's okay to write private pieces, right? It's okay to write pieces that nobody's going to hear, because I had just been so used to performing that everything that I wrote, I was doing it as if I was going to perform it. And because of that, there were certain parameters on it off the rip, because, you know, everything is in context. And then I had to just create that division where I said, you know, this is public, this is private. And so my private stuff, sometimes it doesn't even get finished. Sometimes it might just be like, I'll just write some lines and I'll just text it to like 5 people and they'd be like, that's crazy, you gotta record that. And I'd be like, I don't know, you know, I was just getting it off my chest per se. So that's my private versus public thing. What was the second part? Okay. Okay. Yeah, none of my stuff is light. It's all just ridiculously heavy. But I think for me, because I come from that hip hop space, and this is not to speak on everybody that comes from the hip hop space, but I kind of look at myself as balancing out because that's what I identify with the most. And so I try to bring in a piece that you don't really hear. If it was probably all serious, I might go the other way, but it's just not enough in my style, in my voice. And there's so much party music. I work in middle schools, working at Champion Middle School, dealing with the students, and you know, everything is light. It's all light. It's too light, right? So when I present something, I want it to be a little bit more thought-provoking because they're not in that space. So that's kind of how I balance that out.
I think for me, it would be this serious poetry versus love poetry or love poems. And so I've always wanted to really write love poems, but I only have 2. And so, and so a friend said to me once, I was doing a relationship show, and you had to write this love poem. And I thought, oh my God, I just don't have any love poems. This is terrible. I'm going to go in here and do something for the revolution, and they're talking about love. This is not going to work. And so I wrote this poem, and in that space of writing it, I realized that I had been too busy being in love to write about it. And so I think as writers, sometimes we'll see other poets performing or singing, or they would have so much humor in their work, or this other dynamic that's kind of showing up and revealing itself through the process. And for me, I do struggle with that sometimes. Sometimes my pieces lean to be a certain type of work. But we have an online group called 6 Lines Community, where there is women who are not writers, they're just expressing themselves. And in that particular space, we post topics, and women are allowed to write 6 lines on a topic, and then we put it together. So in that space, it's really light. And sometimes when you're trying to reach a certain type of audience, I think you want to be light before you go heavy, because life can be heavy. The days are heavy, and then when you sit down and maybe you had a heavy day and it's Friday and you go out to the venue to hear the poetry and they're talking about suicide, you're thinking, good night. You know, I mean, it could be real and necessary and the work is great. But if it's too heavy or it's not presented in the right way at the right time, it'll either go over people's heads, they'll ignore it. Now today they'll get on their phones. You know, old school, they didn't even have to deal with the cell phones. You know what I mean? People just kind of work through that process in that regard. And then what was the other part of the question? Yeah, public versus private. I think that that's very important for every writer. One thing that I live by is that it's my poem and it's still my work. So when you're young, you want your parents to hear it, your friends to hear it. Anyone that you can bend their ear, you want them to hear that work. But as you grow as a writer, you come to understand that you want to reveal certain pieces at certain times, and some of them may never, ever see the light of day. You know, it just may be archived work. But you learn really to appreciate the privacy as a writer and things that you want people to be a part of and some things you do want to keep for yourself. And I think that is the true definition of becoming a writer, understanding you do not have to share everything.
It's interesting that Miss Sierra mentioned not having to share everything, because I was battling with writing things and understanding that the things I had written could possibly save someone else, right? And so if I had had that experience and it healed me, who am I to take that away from somebody else? But I don't write funny poems. I'm not a funny poet. Big ups to the funny poets. Big ups, because it's a serious it's a serious talent. In order to make people laugh, that's something really serious. And I've just come to realize that I don't have that gift. But I say that to say that all my poems are very serious as well. And most of them are personal, but I realize that not necessarily in writing personal pieces, but in performing personal pieces to myself. Remember when I said I go crazy in my room? I whisper them. I don't yell them. I yell general poems. And the more personal pieces are introverted. They're quieter.
Me, myself, I write about everything under the sun, including roaches. I write about candy bars and cereals. I write about cow's milk. I write about children's dreams. I write children's poetry. And when I do children's poetry, I read it. I let them act it out. Because if you want to know how good your poetry is, read it to some children. They are the best audience on the planet. Because if it's good, they tell you to your face. And if it's bad, they tell you to your face. So I try to write about everything under the sun, because usually when I perform, I do an hour show, 45-minute hour show. You can't do everything serious in 45 minutes, you lose your audience. You can't do everything funny, you lose your audience. So you have to mix it up. It's like if you go to perform for, say, 75 seniors, and they say you got 75 seniors, and you prepare for 75 seniors. But when you get there, there's 10 seniors and 30 young people. So you can't read the same material. You have to read something for everybody. So I write to read to the audiences. So if the audience is mixed, I try to do mixed things. But I can do funny stuff. I could have been a comedian, but I just didn't have the strength to get up there and do the long shows. But poetry, I don't have any problem with it. I was in New York City one time, and I was writing a poem at 3 o'clock in the morning called In New York City. And it took me about 45 minutes to write, and this was in 1978. And still until this day, that poem is still in my head because I saw it as I wrote it. A lot of things like that always stick in your mind. You can go to sleep 12 hours and it won't run out of your ear.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. I'm Larry James, chair of the board. My question is, how do you define success as a poet, and what does success mean to you, and what advice would you have the young people about those rewards or writing in private versus public?
It's a great question. Yeah, go right ahead.
I'm still learning a lot, guys. I'm learning. Success as a poet to me would probably be the lives that I've touched. I think more than anything, that would be a blessing to me. I don't remember what the second part of the question was. Advice to people in terms, write every day, speak every day, read every day.
Usually when I facilitate a poetry workshop, I bring a lot of books about poets, older poets, 45, 50, 60, 100 years ago, and have them to read them because we owe them something. Yes. We are not the only person that ever walked this earth that writes poetry. And a lot of people came before us, and we have to give them that respect. And with young people, I try to let them know that in your lifetime, you might work for somebody else all your life, but sometime in your lifetime, you got to do something that you want to do so you can enjoy your life. Right. And writing poetry is one of them because it's something that can keep you, and it helps you to know others and help others to know you. It's like it's a hand-in-hand thing. And it also it's like a healing power. You heal yourself from within. If you can heal yourself from within with poetry, you can heal others. Because that's the way it flows. When the audience come here, the audience has an energy. The poet has an energy. That poet has to rise above that energy to connect with the audience. And if you don't rise above it, you missed your chance. Because and with young people, like she was saying about reading, always read. I've written 21 books of poetry, and I've read every one of them over 20 times. Because every time you read something, you get something different from it. So I would advise that to read other people's material. And when I do workshops, if it's 5 people in the workshop, I have everybody write a poem, then everybody read the poem back to that person so you can hear what your poem is saying from somebody else's mouth. Because when you see it on paper, you know what you're saying. But when you hear somebody else read it, it's like, oh, is that what I'm saying? That's right, when you hear it.
I define success as a poet, really just being able to affect people's, hearts and minds. For me, stages aren't, that's fine, that's cool, but if I can be resident in somebody's, heart, inside of their mind, and kind of get them to change their perspective, and if I could do that on a mass level, and if I could do that for the people that I care about and for the places that I care about, then to me that's the highest, definition of success. And it's about, and also who I become in the process. So I think about that in terms, like, even in my age, I think about all of these people. I think about Claude McKay. I think about, Malcolm X. I think about Sonia Sanchez and Nikki Giovanni and Tupac. And I think about what these people did for me, without knowing who I was, because they were brave and they spoke their truth, and and they were wise in how they navigated, and they eternalized their words, and those words is what transforms people's lives, and it transformed my life. And so it's just my hope that I can just be as transformative to other people's lives. So that's my definition. And I would tell young people, and I work with young people a lot, it's just all about finding, it sounds cliche, but it really is about finding your voice. It really is about tapping into your unique perspective, tapping into the things that people think are your weaknesses. People think that they're your flaws, and they become your greatest assets. Obviously, as a youth, I was told, I talk too much. I'm too curious. I don't, all of this stuff that actually end up being my my greatest value was in the things that were like misunderstood about. And so I try to tell youth to take note of those things and to try to utilize them as tools to really achieve their goals. A lot of people cut up in class, but to me, they just look like actors, right? They don't look like people that cut up in class. They just look like performers. It's just like, man, you just need a script and a stage, and we'll be coming to the movies to see you. It's all about perspective and, how you see yourself and the world around you.
Thank you. I think to go off kind of where you are and what you were saying, I think my message may not be directly to the youth, but to the elders. When you see something special in a young person, tell them, don't wait. If you think they have any type of gift, share it with them. Sometimes you may have a seed, one person needs to plant the seed, right? You go a little further and you'll find someone else that'll water it. Someone else will show up and be sunshine. And the person that gets to be a part of the harvest may not have been the person that helped plant the seed. And so just giving a young person a kind word, an encouraging word, if you see them making a decision that is not the best, send them a little light, hold them in the light. And I think in doing that, they will shine brighter in everything, in all of their efforts. And I think for those of us who want to be writers, for me, I was in college and I thought that I knew everything about poetry. I was in Toledo, Ohio, had never really left outside of going to visit my father in Louisiana every single year, and a few other places here and there. And one of my mentors said to me, she said, you know what, I think you should go away to this retreat at the Betty Shabazz Retreat Center. And it was so funny because I didn't know what the word rustic meant. So I didn't prepare for that experience, right? And so we get there, and then it's being hosted by Third World Press. And Gwendolyn Mitchell, I walk up to her and I said, did you know it's spiders in my room? Like, did you know that? Did you know, it's a spider in my room. Like, do you have some raid? I'm so distraught. And so she pulls out the brochure and she says, it said it would be rustic conditions. And I said, I didn't know what rustic meant. I didn't get a dictionary. And so it was from the very moment I touched down at this space at the Betty Shabazz Retreat Center. I didn't know, we're there, we're eating dinner, and I'm eating dinner with Amir Baraka. And I didn't know who he was. And so we're saying, my mentor said, you need to go here. We're going to pay for you to go to this place so you can learn. And I'm eating dinner with him, and he says, where you from, girl? You know what I mean? So he's just talking to me, and all of these great people. Suzan Taylor was there, and she was wonderful. I didn't know who she was. And so I was very immature in that regard. And then when I left and came home, my husband said, what happened? Because I got married way too young. What happened? What happened? And I said, I'm not a poet. And he said, what do you mean? I said, these people are taking care of their kids off of poetry, feeding their families. They have books. I mean, this thing is way more serious than I thought it was. They asked me, what great writers are you into? Who have you studied from the past? Let me see your work in writing. And I'm thinking, oh my God. So my mentor never said to me, you need to grow. She sent me off and paid for me to grow. And it changed my life. And I didn't pick up a pen for 6 months. I said, until I truly have something to say, I will not do a disservice to this craft. And when I picked up my pen, I never stopped writing since that day, but it was 6 months to grow and appreciate what had happened to me. So if you have a young person in your life that you feel they need to grow and you want them to be successful, stand in that gap and assist them in that way, and success will surely find them. One quote for me in closing is what Cornel West said. He said, success is basically, how great is your failure? How far will you go? How far will you extend your reach? It's in every aspect of your life. And that's where I would leave it.
Thank you.
Thanks to all our panelists.
Thank you.
Excellent conversation.
Yeah, we're going to move to our next piece, which is Express Yourself. And it's a great segue from what you've just said, Sierra Leone. I think we have some young people in the audience that is been planted to try to carry that on. To carry that on and stand in the words that Sierra Leone said. But before we do that, I think, Jack, you have a video for that. Express Yourself?
Oh, no, we just have music in the background.
Just music, okay.
A little bit of music. All right. Anybody want to dance up to the microphone? All right. Young
Yes.
people. Young
Keenan
people.
Lucas.
Anybody. Older people. Come on up.
You don't never be
Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, hi guys. My name is Keenan Lucas. I'm 15 years old. I go to Gahanna Lincoln High School.
All right.
And yeah, I'm like a songwriter. I write songs and I also write raps and stuff. And so I guess I just came up here so that I could like share something with you guys.
Please do.
Okay.
Where's it come from?
Wait.
Like why are you writing? Why did you write it?
I just wrote it because I guess it's just, I was just like bored one day. I didn't really have anything to do. And so then that's when I was just like, hey, why don't I just write a song? And so I did.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, so this is like sort of an introduction to who I am. All right. Hi, my name is Keen. Wait. Oh my God. All right. It's Keenan, I'm rapping on the beat. I'm looking like a double chap from my head to my feet. I'm the champ of the champs who can never be beat. It's like I'm on a diet, I just can't taste the defeat. And so when I'm on the mic, you should know I get it done. I'm rapping with an excellent vocabulary and I'm rocking with Suzan. And I go and do what I do best and know that I do it happily. When I grab a pen and pad, when I grab a pen and pad, know that I'm making a masterpiece. But then that's when I didn't really finish that rap, so I just made it.
Thank you. Masterpiece in the making, should we call it? Huh?
Thank you. That takes
Thank
courage.
you, Keenan. Does anyone else like to share? Yes.
I haven't memorized this, but I wrote it for Tamir Rice.
Okay.
Oh.
It says, life will never be the same without me. My little sisters, my loving mothers, or my dependable fathers. My friends and teachers will miss me too. Excuse me. What are they to do? Please don't let me go in vain. Sister, a brother's precious joy, you'll never again come to check on me. We'll never talk, play games, or walk to school. You won't have me to protect you. I can't decide if your boyfriend's a good prospect. You won't tell me my best friend called. Gone is my opportunity to apply for a driver's license when I'm 16. Date a girl, rent a tux to attend the prom, try out for a team. To make a goal, shoot a birdie, dunk a ball, or make a touchdown. What potential did I possess? Who and what might have inspired me? Who might have become my friends? What paths might I have traveled in life? What milestones might I have reached? Mom, you'll never hear me laugh, cry, or sing again. Use or learn from your advice. I'll never enjoy your delicious meals. You'll never see me walk across the stage to receive my diploma. Mom, you'll never hear me call your name or say Happy Mother's Day. We'll never exchange Christmas presents. I'll never bring joy to family and friends, never celebrate another birthday, or look forward to Christmas break. Never go to college, become what I was meant to be, or meet my bride at the altar. Never own a house or travel around the world. I'll never have children to take to the park, go swimming, or spend a day at Cedar Point. Dad, we'll never throw and catch balls or wrestle together. You will never teach me to drive, tell me how to treat a lady, or grow up to be a man. If I had crossed the end zone or dunked like LeBron, you would have stood cheering and said, "Well done," or "Good job, son." Thank you.
Oh, please, wait.
Thank
What
you.
is your name?
Ma'am, what's your name?
I'm sorry, Nicey Polk, and I'm a Columbus resident. I lived here over 40 years.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
My name, Ricardo Davenport. I read vignettes and prose, and I wanted to share and thank the panel. A vignette at 7:25 p.m. on 4/26/2015. I am pleased to be among you all to inspire me. I'm pleased.
All right. Very good.
Anyone else? Okay.
Oh, wait.
Oh.
Oh, my
Okay.
goodness. All right.
Let's pull that mic down for her. There you go.
My name is Sydney, and I'm going to sing a little poem that I've been thinking about in my head, and it's about my love for my sharing in God. Love is an opportunity to have love in your heart. It's a very good place where you're the start. When you see God in your love, it's courage to help because it's fun and it's more like something that's never happened before, like a miracle or something that you've never seen before.
Thank you, Sydney. Thank you. Thank you. All right. We'll have to put another chair up here, won't we? Thank you. No doubt.
Well, Susan, we're running
Yeah,
toward
we're
the end
at
of
the end of our conversation. So we're going to have our panelists and poet close us out with their encore. And then if they'll be available right after the last presentation to give some more remarks. And we again thank you for coming and sharing in the Lincoln Theater Community Conversations.
Thank you all. It's been a great audience. This piece is called The City. I actually wrote it. It's a song, but it's also a poem where I walked around the King Lincoln District a couple years back. And once again, I think the job of the poet and the artist is to chronicle and to document what they see. That's why we love all of the artists that came before us. That's why we love Amina Robinson, because they told the stories that other people would not tell. So The City. Through the lens of my eyes, my soul takes vivid snapshots of brothers on b-ball court, black tops, forsaken homes, cracked spots. Every blink's one more exposure that develops these negative pictures, proof the war is not over, my people not sober. Rather, our integrity is poured out like libations or concrete pavement. My spirit broken like the liquor bottle. I got a nickel to scratch to try win the lotto. The fiends itching for crack, scratch it till tomorrow. Hustle a nickel a sack, now they selling marijuana. You look at life different when you standing on the corner. But that's just what I be hearing when I'm walking through the city. The rhythm from the streets got me talking to the buildings. Looking at the peoples like staring in the mirror. My reflections on the sky, my eyes swimming on the river. The complexities of life got me on a path simple. Sticking to the basics, learning the fundamentals. Loving my education, learning is fundamental. Before you fund your bank account, learn to fund your mental.
And education essential. God, he's for survival. So I'm taking notes of pencils while I'm highlighting the Bible. Because my academics could lead me to a scholarship, but I'm praying God can give me wisdom like Solomon's. Understanding and knowledge is health to the bones. Lips of the righteous nourish many with words sweeter than honeycombs. See, I be in the city where the brothers roam like cellular phones, taking L's to the dome because their parents not home. Ask, where are they going? And then I tell them that the city's their home. And then I have them walk through the city so they can feel the rhythm, man, and talk to the buildings. My heart beat like the drum kit to a song. I can feel the rhythm moving through my wrist and my arm. The beat oscillates between my fingertip and my palm. And I begin to compose as the rhythm gets calm. I found that life can be a soundtrack. I open my ears hoping to hear when my eyes wouldn't allow that. Pops yelling inside the home. I hear music inside my dome. Mom's tears remind me of a xylophone. Yes, she played with a silent tone, spoke with the voice of a harp. I guess that's why I play it close to my heart. My pop's attitude, electric guitar in the hands of a rock star. He hit the block hard but carried a heavy metal. When we get whoopings, wanted to turn down my treble. Wanted to feel the love that's acoustic. Growing up, I hated my music, so as fate, I pursue it to use it. To hear my mother smile like notes played from a flute. And that's just what I be hearing when I'm walking through the city. The rhythm from the streets got me talking to the buildings, looking at the peoples like staring in the mirror. My reflections on the sky, my eyes swimming on the river. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, goodness, yes. Here you go. Just like jazz, you made it work. Before I go into my final piece, on the back table there, I have copies of my CD for sale, but I think most of them have been taken, and so that is okay too. And I do have copies of a book as well in the back, a chapbook, and you're more than welcome to take one or purchase it. However, the word will get out. The final piece that I want to share is entitled Standardized Learning. And, oh, I forgot. Also back there on the table is a copy of a women's retreat that we're hosting in Yellow Springs. It's called 6 Lines Retreat. If you would like more information on it, we're getting together to write, to rest, and laugh. The head editor of Third World Press, Gwendolyn Mitchell, will be there headlining the writers' retreat, along with myself and 2 other women. And then lastly, in May the 8th, we're bringing we're bringing Malcolm Jamal Warner to headline our signature series. And then June the 16th, we're a part of the org that's bringing Iyanla Vanzant to the Schuster Center. So we're excited about the events that are coming up. But this piece is entitled Standardized Learning. For me, I'm severely dyslexic, and it's a part of my platform when I speak, that I talk about young people or human beings with disabilities. It was something that I hid for a very, very long time. And when I went to school to get my master's degree at Wright State University, they have the 5th best disability services program in the United States. And so I had an opportunity to get tested and do the work. And after that experience, I graduated with my master's degree in applied behavioral sciences with a 4.0. And so for so long, I would go on and on, not really talking about that. But I think we should speak about learning disabilities, because if we do, people and young people, most importantly, will ask for help and support and get what they need to succeed. Is memorizing learning, or just temporary indigestion of the mental? Maybe it's validation or the stamp of approval. I see it as the spark that ignited a detonator of 1,000,001 wrongs never made right. Is it another story told about urban plight? If it is, I want to do more than survive, because memorizing feels like a long country mile in a big city mind. Could it be allegory for those who are living in the house of bondage or wearing the badge of betrayal? Or maybe it's a scripted purgatory where unrested souls dwell. Could it be the quiet cries or repeated I don't know whys? Lies, piercing the consequence that comes with every decision. Maybe it's a mixture of suffering and hope with temporary blissfulness. I know what it is. It's profound rejection. We asking questions and they plan semantics. We come up lacking because they doing a subtraction. Oops, my fault, I mean standardized testing. Using strong-arm Gestapo tactics. If we don't stop them, before you know it, they'll have our children goose-stepping and yelling. Self-destruction, we're headed for self-destruction. I'm telling you, man, forget where you fit in. The righteous old school need us to get in the trenches, that is, and educate these children that ain't getting it. That's how they did it. BET should run a special on how we really living. I'm not preaching to the choir, but since I have y'all attention, they need to free everyone fighting in a resistance. But they're not. And anomy will reign forever, spilling over onto these pages as my words rest in that gray area that separates what is from what should be. Tell me again, why are we here? I don't want to shout higher than I live. But what about the oppressed being left for dead on a battling field? What about that unknown Negro with a story to tell, lying there, thinking all I wanted to do was live free and die well? Not become another crab at the bottom of the barrel, or that growth planted in the shade wishing for rain. It was much easier when you never knew your utopia would end. Who really felt like I before E except after C meant anything? Well, at least not in my world, because biases ran free like electricity, jolting volts of energy that were not used to do the right thing, but a different thing. Anything but more deferred dreams. Anything except mind raping the innocent and molesting the ignorant. Anything but another story told with a forgotten piece. Anything but another unsolved mystery dedicated to the lower classes' industrialized view of humanity. Anything but another rewrite of history on the backs of the people who created this country. Anything.
I forgot to say this when I was answering the question, but I have learned throughout by performing poetry and doing poetry that any poem that can be read, you can act it out. It's a miniature play. This is a poem called Time for Another Time. We're born, we live, we die. Our bodies returns to dust, which makes dirt, which makes things grow. Along comes some water and makes mud. So be careful what you step in. It could be my life.
So guys, I was gonna do the N-word piece, but I realized that we're recording live. So if you really, really want to hear the poem, come up to me afterwards and I'll do it for you. I'm going to do another equally important poem for women. Sierra mentioned earlier that it is Women's History Month. As we round it out, I just want to do a piece for them. For us, I should say. In my black before beautiful, black before brains, brains before beautiful, beautiful before brains, black before a woman, woman before a person, body before an image, image only, body only, only woman. No beauty, no brains, no color, no face, no image, no eyes, only body. No woman, no brains. A woman is only seen, not heard. Don't you know? Don't speak. Sit quietly, that corner, in that corner over there. Hush, woman, hush, child. Keep the sobs, keep them muted in your throat. No one wants to hear all that pain. No one wants to hear you complain about how you're always the victim, about how mommy had a bad habit of signing checks before she actually cashed them. No emotion, no heart, you have no soul, no depth. You are only body. You are only Saturday nights and drunk cab rides home, not the mornings after you are smeared lipstick, child. And shadows of thighs stilted on fishnets and smeared lipstick, always the one no one wants. You are only leftovers, you body of a woman. You have spilled yourself. Your cup runneth over. All you are is give and give and give and no take. But I was told that a woman was a million words more than just trying to speak herself into the skin of a man, of anyone. And you, woman, you are more than Saturday nights. You are butterfly. There is beauty cocooned inside your shell. And for all those who told you your love will turn to ashes in your mouth, tell them that you are made of bonfire, that the world mistakes your burning for beauty. Women are given too much attention for their looks and not enough credit for their intellect, and not to mention it's getting hard to have to protect ourselves. Due to recent events, one has to be strapped whenever they enter an elevator, or even in the safety of our own homes. We can be raped or seen through anything we wear. We can be given dishonorable discharges because of the textures of our hair. We can never be presidents because of the time of the month, but we give birth to your sons. We raise your heroes. We nurse your wounds. We cook the meals that you eat before you leave to conquer the world. And even when the world is burning, we still have the strength to cover your skins with the seams of our skirts. We have killed and cooked, burnt and bruised, sang and slaughtered, been hurt and abused. We have died 1,000 deaths. We will not die anymore. We are done with death. And when men are oppressed, it is a tragedy. When women are oppressed, it is tradition. Us women, we are faith, we are time, we are roots, we are spine. Us women, we are sanctified. We are revolution. Us happy, we happy with change. It is a constant baptism to remind us of our holy. We are looking to the sun. We are better than those things. We are better than everything we have done. Us women, we are beautiful. We are worthy. Us women, we are worthy. Thank you, guys.
Very, very nice. We've been inspired through all of our poet and panelists here, Ms. Cynthia Amoah, Brother IsSaid, Sierra Leone, and Speak Williams.
A round of
Let's give them
applause
hell.
for them.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, we encourage you to continue to be connected to the Lincoln Theater. Jack, you have a few closing remarks?
Just a quick poem about words and how we have to be careful with them, particularly with the young people around here in bullying. Will Carleton, a poet from the 19th century, did this piece, and this is just a little close. And this shows you the power of words, and it's something that the children can relate to. Boys flying kites haul in those white-winged birds. But you can't do that with flying words. Caution with fire is good, we know. Caution with words is 10 times doubly so. Thoughts unexpressed might fall back dead, but even God can't kill them once they're said. So be careful with what you say.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.